To speak to an audience like this is always, one is likely to be blamed or likely to be criticized of what one would say preaching to the converted. So whatever I say is not preaching, because you are already converted. Once I was invited to speak at a Royal Mail conference. I was surprised to receive such invitation, but I went. And in these modern gadgets, you have this button, press button gadget in which you can do an instant survey. And so the chairman asked the audience, now Mr. Kumar is going to speak about the environment. Let us do a survey. How many of you are interested in environment? And there are three categories. Very interested, little bit interested, and not interested at all. And I was surprised. The poll was 29% people not at all interested. Something like 22 or 23% of people a little bit interested, and the rest very interested. So if you put those two, not at all interested or only a little bit interested, they were in the majority. So at that time I said, today at least, no one can say that I am preaching to the converted. Now, Thomas Berry, like Anita Roddick, is a prophet of Ecozoic era. Now, Ecozoic may be a little bit more academic term. We can simply call it the age of ecology. And his phrase, earth community, is a very beautiful phrase, because we are members of the earth community, first and foremost. And that is our true identity. We sometimes say, who are you? I'm an Englishman, or an Indian man, or a white man, or a black man, or a woman, or a child, or a doctor, or a lawyer. So many different kinds of identities we have. And we are very close to our identity. I'm British, I'm English, that kind of identity. I had such identity crisis once. Many of you know that when I was young, I undertook a very long pilgrimage. It was a pilgrimage for peace around the world. I was inspired by an Englishman, Bertrand Russell, who at age 90 went to jail because he was protesting against the nuclear weapons. And I was 25-year-old young man at that time, sitting in India. I was with a friend. We were at a coffee house, drinking coffee, when I heard this news. And I said to my friend, look, Menon, here is a man of 90 going to jail for peace in the world. What are we doing, young men, sitting here drinking coffee? And my friend and I talked and decided that we will join the movement of peace and for peace, and Bertrand Russell, support his work by going on foot to Moscow, Paris, London, Washington, D.C., 4 nuclear capitals, and without any money. The whole story I'm not going to tell you. I just want to tell you about my identity crisis. And we walked from the grave of Mahatma Gandhi to the border of India and Pakistan. And at the border, the last day in India, Many of my friends came, and to say goodbye, to bid farewell, and one of my very close friend came to say goodbye, but he was very unhappy with the idea that I was walking without money, without food, and first country, Pakistan. So he said to me, Satish, aren't you crazy? You are going to Pakistan, our enemy country? We had 3 wars between India and Pakistan. The Muslims live there. My heart goes out for you. At least you should take some food with you. Here are some packets of food. Please take them with you. So that for a few days while you are looking around, finding somebody to support you, you have something to sustain you. I said, no, thank you. These packets of food are not packets of food. They are packets of mistrust. What am I going to say to my Pakistani hosts? That I didn't trust you whether you will feed me or not. So I brought my own food all the way from India. I cannot take. He was in tears. I said, why are you crying? He said, I don't know if I will see you again. You are going to Muslim countries, Christian countries, capitalist countries, communist countries, deserts, mountains, no money, no food. How are you going to survive? This might be my last day that I see you. And I said, my friend, don't cry. If I die walking for peace, that is the best death. That day, I came to terms with my death. I lost the fear of death that moment. And I walked into Pakistan. And there was a miracle happen. Miracles can happen when you have no money. Miracle happened. Suddenly, I heard someone calling my name. Say, are you Satish and your friend Menon, 2 people who are going to Moscow, Paris, London, Washington for peace? I said, yes, we are. But how do you know our names? Because we don't know anybody in Pakistan. We have written to nobody. We have no contact with anybody. And here you are. You know our names. He said, I read about you. Your news traveled ahead of you. And when I read that you are working for peace, I said, I'm for peace. All these wars between India and Pakistan and Hindus and Muslims is all total nonsense. So I've come to greet you, to invite you to my home. Now, can you imagine that moment? 5 minutes ago, my friend was saying, you are going to an enemy country. And here is my enemy, standing face to face in front of me, saying, welcome to my home. I said to my friend at that time, if I come here as an Indian, I meet a Pakistani. If I come here as a Hindu, I meet a Muslim. But if I come here as a human being, I meet a human being. So all our identities are secondary. Now, when I read Thomas Berry, I went a step further. And I said, we are not just human beings. We are a being. A species among many species. Our industrial enlightenment culture, our anthropocentric, human-centric culture has given us this idea that somehow human beings are superior. And then, once you take that idea of superiority and inferiority, then you say, oh, of course, human beings are superior among all other species, but the Indians are even more superior than other countries, other nationalities. Of course, all the Indians are superior, but of course, Brahmins are even more superior. And of course, all Brahmins are superior, but those who have been to Varanasi and Haridwar and Kashi and read Vedas and Upanishads and Gita, they are the superior most. Then that hierarchy goes on, the identity goes on. Then who is at the top left is, I am the most important. That's the kind of self-centered is even worse than human-centered. So, the earth is a community, is such a radical shift, such a radical change in our consciousness. The moment we say that I am a species, one of the many species, humanity is one. We are nature. Nature is not out there, even in this very terrible concrete jungle. Isn't it lovely to have a little bit of water there and some green there? But nature is not just out there. We are nature too. Humans are nature. Where does the word nature come from? Nature word is related to birth. Like birth of Jesus Christ is related to nativity. We say nativity. In South Africa, you have a city called Natal. Why it is called Natal? Because a Christian man arrived in that city on the day of Christmas and so called it Natal. So nativity, natal, native, Natal, nature, nation, they all come from the same root. So we are born. Therefore we are nature. Everything, a tree is born. A deer is born. A cow is born. And whatever is born will die and will be born again. So this continuous communion, this is what beautiful phrase Thomas Berry said. The earth is not a collection of objects. It is a communion of subjects. It's a communion. And you cannot have communion with nature if you are not a community. Communion and community have to come together. And you have to communicate. How can you have a communion with the earth when you are living in a concrete jungle like Barbican? When we see nature a little bit there, almost like imprisoned, surrounded by this tremendous concrete jungle. How many of our people in the world, modern world, are living with nature, close to nature? Our culture has become so detached, disconnected. This real disconnect is our biggest problem. And therefore, if we want to really celebrate Thomas Berry and the earth as community, and earth is a community, then we have to commune with nature. Talk to nature. I mean, people say you are stupid, you are kind of supernatural, and all this Richard Dawkins types will not like you. I was interviewed by Richard Dawkins on a false pretenses. He said to me that we are going to have a proper discussion between spirituality and science, and I would like to discuss with you. And we had a 1-hour discussion on camera. And when he produced the program, he quoted 1 minute out of 1-hour discussion. That's your scientific, objective, rational, impartial presentation. That's the kind of science that we have today. That's not true science. And so, being in communion with nature is to have that empathy, that relationship. My mother used to say, learn from nature. There's a wonderful book written by Janine Benyus called Biomimicry. She talks about the same thing. We have to learn from nature. My mother used to say that the nature is the greatest teacher. even greater than the Buddha. Can you imagine anybody saying in India there is anyone greater teacher than the Buddha? I said, what do you mean, mother? That the nature is even greater teacher than the Buddha. Mother said, of course. Where did Buddha get his enlightenment from? He was sitting under a tree. That's why he got enlightenment. Nowadays, we don't get enlightenment because we don't sit under a tree. As simple as that. She was very simple-minded. So, nature is the greatest teacher. My mother another thing she would say. She was illiterate. She was a peasant woman. She had a little farm. She could not read, write, even sign her name. But she was a wise elder, wise woman. And she used to say, learn from the honeybees. What do the honeybees do? They go from flower to flower to flower, taking a little nectar here, a little nectar there, never too much. Never, ever a flower has complained that honeybee took too much nectar away. Never. And what does honeybee do with that nectar which she has received, taken? It transforms. Do you wish to learn the lesson of transformation? Where do you go? Where do you learn from? Learn from the honeybee. It transforms that nectar into sweet, delicious, healing honey. That's the law of nature. That's the law of the earth. We have forgotten that law of the earth, and we are so stuck in these thousands and thousands of volumes of laws passed by British government and American government and the Indian government, and we have forgotten the earth jurisprudence, the law of nature, the law of the earth, which Thomas Berry has talked about in this wonderful book, which I'm talking about, The Great Work. And if you have not read this book, it is one book, in a nutshell. The entire philosophy of Thomas Berry is written. So if you have not read this book, please remember to take a copy with you today. And Thomas Berry would love to be in the company of my mother. When mother says that learn from the lesson of transformation. And the same is the Buddha himself. He was sitting in vegetation, both palms like this, on top of each other. And a disciple came and said, enlightened one, where did you get your capacity to be so compassionate, so forgiving? And the Buddha does not speak. He's in silent meditation. And yet he wants to give the answer. He lifts one hand, one palm, and touches the earth, saying that it is from the earth that I learn it is from the earth that I learn my compassion and my capacity to forgive. So, nature, the earth, that is our greatest source of inspiration, greatest source of poetry, greatest source of imagination. So the great work now we have is to reconnect with the earth community. That is, in a nutshell, in one sentence, if you want to understand the idea of Thomas Berry, the great work is to reconnect with our earth community. This, we have forgotten, and we are trying to get rid of many isms, like nationalism, like racism, like sexism, all these isms. And I like that. I want to make all isms wasms. But we have not forgotten one ism, and that is speciesism. We are very speciesist. We still think human beings have more consciousness, more intelligence, more this, more that. We are somehow special. And therefore the earth is there for our benefit, for our use. We can do what we like. This speciesism has to be discarded if we want earth community to thrive. And when we are humble enough, this ecological humility we have learned, then all of our life, our business, our economy will change. At the moment we have said the economy comes first. And if we have money, we have capitalism, we have economy, we can look after the environment. In order to look after the environment, clean the environment, we need money, we need economy. So economy first, ecology second. I wrote a little article in Resurgence. Some of you who are subscribers might have read it. And I challenged that argument. And I said, not economy first, it's ecology first. Economy, as it has been said, is the wholly owned subsidiary of ecology. Oikos means home. The word oikos, the Greek word home. Planet home. It's a beautiful wisdom in Greek tradition. There was a wisdom there. They called it home. Oikos is a home. And logos means knowledge. So ecology means knowledge of home. And nomos means management. Economy is management of home. Now, if you don't know your home, how are you going to manage it? If you don't know where your bedroom is, where your kitchen is, where your bathroom is, where your wardrobes are, how are you going to manage your home? How are you going to distribute your right furniture in right place if you don't know your home? So we are managing without knowing. This is the fundamental folly of our human arrogance, thinking that we can manage the earth. We are the managers. There's a kind of superiority complex. So economy must be the servant, and ecology should be primary. Ecology first, earth first. Earth not to serve economy. At the moment, earth is serving economy. The rainforests cut down. Tribal cultures destroyed them. They are all backward because they are not economic. Something which is not economical has to be discarded. Biodiversity, doesn't matter. Traditional livelihoods, doesn't matter. Those are very backward. This industrial lifestyle, which is more economical, efficient, productivity, all these buzzwords of the economists. We have to go back, and we have to say, now we are going back to not economy, not efficiency, not productivity, but sustainability, harmony, balance, relationship, symbiotic relationship between humans and other than humans, all species. We are together, kith and kin. This is the old Indian philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in Sanskrit, which means the whole earth is one family. The American Indians knew it. The Aboriginal people knew it. The Bushmen of Kalahari knew it. Even now the Maasai people and people in Africa, they know it. But we people who call ourselves advanced and progressive and scientific and technological and all the kind of, we think who we are in the Western world, we have forgotten the fundamental principle of the laws of the earth. But traditional cultures and societies knew it at a deep level, deep consciousness. The whole earth is one family. And we are all species, kith and kin, each other, friends of the earth. That's the beautiful title for an organization. We are not masters, not managers. We are not stewards. Nothing of those kinds which put you on a superior position. We are friends. And friendship is the most beautiful relationship that you can imagine. Because it has no superiority. In two friends, you cannot be one higher, one lower. That's not friendship. In friendship, there is no ifs and buts. In friendship, there are no conditions. I like you only if you are good to me. That's no friendship. Unconditional love is friendship. Are we prepared to give our unconditional love to the earth? Just paying your 20 pounds or 50 pounds to friends of the earth does not make you a friend of the earth. But when you are able to have that ecological humility, and you are able to forget that arrogance that we are superior and we can manage the earth, then you are friend of the earth. The Buddha was the first ecologist. He was the friend of the earth because he sat under the tree on the earth by the river. He left his palace, his home, his horses, his elephants, his servants, everything. I say he wanted to commune with nature. So Thomas Berry might be a reincarnation of the Buddha. So are we, in our schools, we are talking about this girls' school, they have a little bit of nature there. But if we were truly understanding the meaning of putting earth before economy, we will be taking our children at least once a week, if not every day, out in the fields. The eco-intelligence, the eco-literacy, totally missing from our schools. All these Eton and Harrow and Oxford and Cambridge, these university and schools are not centers of knowledge. They are centers of ignorance. They pride themselves, we are Oxford graduate, Cambridge graduate. I went to Eton, so I must be leader of the Tory party because I went to Eton. Does Eton take you out to understand how to sit under a tree? I started a school in Heartland called the Small School. And I said, the first thing we want to instigate and install in our small school would be to take our children out in nature. And don't take any camera, don't take any pencil, don't take any paper, don't take any pen, don't take any video cameras, nothing, no technology, no computers, nothing. Just go with your eyes open and open the third eye, the eye of the heart, the mind's eye, the eye of imagination, and commune with the trees. And then come back and write poetry. Then you can have paper. Then you can have pen and pencil and write a poetry. Remember the beauty you saw and make a little drawing. Write an essay. Do. But when you are in nature, be in nature. I would like, if British education is really interested, seriously interested in combating and mitigating and addressing the issue of global warming, of climate change, of environmental crisis, of resource pollution, resource depletion, all the problems of environment we face, start one simple thing, or two simple things I say in the end. One simple thing, make once a week, one day a week, all children go out in nature and put their hands in the soil. How about that? Small change you need. So children get to know nature. If you don't know nature, how are you going to love nature? And if you don't know nature, if you don't love nature, how are you going to protect it and conserve it and take care of it? Every school, since we are talking in the school here, I'm sorry that the girls are not here today. I would like to ask them, go out of this concrete jungle once a week. Don't worry about expenses. Walk to the country. Take a bus to the country. Take a train to the country. Go out. And the second thing, which we can talk about it here, and that is make Sunday a carbon-free day. Again, Sunday used to be a carbon-free, more or less. People didn't used to work. But now, Marks and Spencer, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, petrol stations, cars, everything, to aeroplanes, everything is open on Sunday. One day of Sabbath would be a wonderful idea, wouldn't it? When you can rest, you can garden, you can be with your family, you can meditate, you can write poetry. It's all carbon free. Paint your picture, carbon free. Sing a song, carbon free. We have no time to sing songs. I walk in beauty before me. I walk in beauty behind me. I walk in beauty above me. I walk in beauty below me. I walk in beauty all around me. The whole world is beautiful. The whole world is beautiful. How can you sing such songs if you are surrounded in concrete jungles where there's so much ugliness? The last testament of Anita Roddick, which will be published in the next issue of Resurgence, was make public spaces beautiful. So, can we make our Sunday carbon-free day? No flying, no driving, no Marks and Spencer, no shopping. Simple. At a stroke, you can reduce your 5% carbon emission. Gordon Brown and Zach Goldsmith and Gummer and all these people are producing wonderful reports and giving big speeches and writing, Nicholas Stern writing 600-page review of climate change and declaring quite truthfully that climate change is the greatest market failure there ever was. Hurrah. And then what? Then solutions. Same solution, same technique. More economy, more production, more consumption. But only by not fossil fuel, but use biofuel. Use nuclear fuel. Use some renewable fuel even. But without challenging the basic fundamental assumption of consumerism. Fundamental assumption of protecting the biodiversity. Nobody is talking about protecting the biodiversity. We are continuing to destroy our rainforests. We are continuing to industrialize our agriculture in Africa, in India, in China, in all the other third world countries where agriculture was always carbon free. And now governments of all Western countries are giving money to make agriculture industrial, business. Agribusiness. So, you cannot solve the problem with the same mindset which caused the problem in the first place. And this is not me. It's the famous scientist Einstein said it. You cannot solve the problem with the same, if the consumerism, the overproductivity, the destruction of biodiversity, the destruction of traditional agriculture, the traditional way of livelihoods, if those are destroyed and therefore we have got the global warming and the climate change, how are you going to stop global warming unless you address those issues? So, the great work now for us is no good just thinking that all these ideas are wonderful, we are already converted, it's the out there. You have to preach the Royal Mail conference or Gordon Brown, 10 Downing Street. Why don't you go and meet the Prime Minister? No. The change will not come from the 10 Downing Street. The change will not come from the Parliament House. The great work will not start from the City and the Bank of England. How many rates and interest rates and fluctuating this and that, they do, but they are not going to do anything to mitigate the problems of creating, destroying earth community and recreating, restoring the earth community. The work has to be starting from us. We have to take responsibility. Where is that movement which Martin Luther King started for civil rights? Similar to that movement we need for our biodiversity and livelihoods and earth community. Where is that movement which Mahatma Gandhi started for the independence of India? We need a similar movement to establish biodiversity and right livelihoods and earth community. Where is that movement which Bertrand Russell inspired me and committee of 100, which they sat down in front of 10 Downing Street, that I'm not going to move, put me in jail. 90-year-old, Nobel Prize winning, Lord Bertrand Russell, going to jail. How many are we prepared to go to jail? How many are we? When Mahatma Gandhi was tried for breaking the tax on salt, he was brought to the court. And Gandhi made a statement and said, "My Lord, give me the harshest punishment you have in your books. I will go to prison like a bride goes to a wedding chamber." That was the courage. That was the fearlessness. So unless we move out of our comfortable armchairs, this is what I said. What are we doing, my friend, drinking coffee here, sitting and drinking coffee when Bertrand Russell is in jail? What are we doing when our species are disappearing, biodiversity is disappearing, rainforests are disappearing, and we say we are already converted? We all believe in Thomas Berry. We all believe in biodiversity. What are you talking to us? Go and preach to non-converted. So I'm talking to us, ourselves, that we have to build a movement of awareness, of consciousness, of non-violent ecology, non-violent action, where we can say we non-cooperate from the consumerist culture of our time. Unless we can be the change we want to see in the world, and unless we can act for the change we want to see in the world, just writing books, although good they are, even publishing magazines like Resurgence, and I would like you to read Resurgence and read great work. I'm not against writing books and publishing magazines, but we have to go a step further if you want to create a great work. And that step further is to unite together and move together. And that will make Thomas Berry truly happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.